Namaste, dosto. Welcome to yet another rocking episode of Fight
Woohoo!
Mania with none other than Arjun, aka Mystic Chips, and your host and host Somesh, the superhuman Kamra. Oh, that's the OG t shirt right there.
Yes,
That is
sir.
the OG t shirt. It's fitting so well. It's looking great on you. You're losing weight and you're so busy shooting that you can't come to the studio.
अरे क्या करेगा यार अभी कभी कभी काम वाम बीच में आ जाता है बट लाइक ऑलवेज वी हैव टू मेक रूम फॉर change
More
and
money.
time and of course
Acha.
we have to still we have a great show lined up. Money sale. We have a great show lined up, but before we even get started we're going to rush into a quick commercial break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. Storytellers and Storytellers is back. Storytelling veterans Puneet and Vikena talk how they're developing and producing content for top OTT platforms. On The Wire Talks, Siddharth Bhatia talks to Kira Huju. She's a lecturer at Oxford University, and she talks to Siddharth about her paper on the saffronization of the Indian Foreign Services. On A Sip of Finance, Priyanka lists out 5 things that are a must before finalizing a mutual fund investment. On Think Fast, Varun and Sucheta talk about industry layoffs, Zomato stocks, and the user feedback on Instagram's new look. And on Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav gives us a glimpse of the Titanic Museum in Northern Ireland and uncovers the problems with museums across the world. I'd like to remind you all about our merchandise once again. We got some amazing stuff out there with more coming soon. But go to the IVM Podcast website and check out our collection of t-shirts. You have to click on the shop tab and we'll take you to our partner Grow 91's website. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Hey, you want somebody to talk to your shows about, right? So talk to them about them. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platforms you're listening to us on. And remember, you can check us out on YouTube. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week, Bode Lifestyle, Small Case, Capgemini, and Intel vPro. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Dude, Chips, you remember how Boat used to come at the end of the sponsorship and now suddenly it's come at number one and Capgemini has come like a little later?
I don't know, man. I don't know what's happening, but it's good. It's good that we've got sponsors on board now, and it's just a sign of things. I think we finished what before we became the Fight Mania podcast.
Yeah.
We did approximately 60 episodes of
Yeah.
the Fighting Goat, which was what we started off as.
Right,
And
which was over a year basically. Because there
yeah,
was one
it took
every
about
week. So
yeah, we were. It's not as we do it bi-weekly, once in 2 weeks, but we were earlier doing it flat once a week.
yeah,
Every Monday
yeah.
we were recording. Yeah, so I think it was a good transition because Fighting Goat existed a lot during the lockdown, for 1.5 years.
Yes.
So we got some great guests in during that time, and we were Somesh and I were chatting about the fact that we've seen like how as you know, Fight Mania is about everything that has to do with fighting, and
Yeah.
we've been talking about the kind of guests we've had on board. We've had like Ritu Fogat, we've had Gurdarshan, Gary Mangat, a lot of
Yeah.
these stars from One FC, and
Yeah.
that got us talking into that started leading into a direction of how important is the popularity aspect in fighting. you
Right.
know
Right. In fact, that's such a good topic because most people that get into the sport now may not understand it's not just about the sport. So
right
there's always
right
going to be a Rishabh Pant who's the wicketkeeper for the Indian team. But a Virat Kohli is a whole new level because of the popularity, because of what he does, of course, on the pitch, and it's also outside the pitch. And
yeah
same goes with all sports. It's just not about performance anymore. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but for the viewers, it's definitely a good thing.
I
Because
think
when you look at anybody in the combat world,
hmm,
there are good and there are great. Now, the difference between them is what the great do outside their profession,
right,
and
see,
it all,
but I always think that it's the popularity aspect will always make someone get attention when they didn't have attention. But if you were a substandard player and then the popularity falls on you, it can be negative also, because
Mm,
if
but I
someone, if
agree, but
tomorrow,
not at
if
all
in an
levels.
organization, if tomorrow samjho, if I'm in an organization and I'm working in a, I'm a mid-tier employee that is
Yeah,
earning a, a standard salary, and I'm
yeah,
not very good, I'm just surviving. So
yeah,
if there's no
yeah.
spotlight on me, there might be a much higher chance of me holding that position for a longer time. Whereas if there was a spotlight put on me, saying that, okay, here's Arjun or here's Somesh, and then suddenly people realize that, oh shit, he's not as good as we thought he was. So there's a chance of getting cut, demoted, and a lot of things that go along with popularity. A lot of fighters today think that that popular aspect is only
Hmm.
a good thing. It's not, because
Oh no, no, no! It's
popularity
not. It's not.
popularity means eyeballs. Eyeballs means people are watching everything you do now.
Absolutely, yes. So, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, are you talking about Kamzat? Because when he had that beautiful hype behind him and then he ran into Gilbert Burns, people suddenly realized that this guy can be hit. And a lot of people started talking. In fact, even Jorge Masvidal, I believe, just tweeted maybe a day or so back, and he said that I won't even fight Kamzat because he's not as good. He talks in a certain manner and he's running over certain people, but he's not at my
Right.
level. The moment he
Right.
starts bringing in the numbers, that's when I'm going to smash his face.
Exactly, and that makes complete sense. See, Kamzat, I would still say is still a one hell of a fighter. He can fight, no
Yeah,
doubt. He's
yeah,
got the skills, and he went through a war. Of course, he's no longer that undefeatable machine. You know, it's a lot of people thought like, oh man, Kamzat, you can't touch this guy, you can't touch this guy, and
yeah,
believe me,
yeah.
Gilbert Burns touched him. But what
Correct.
I'm alluding to in terms of the popularity aspect is, see what happened to guys like Tyron Woodley. Woodley was such a decorated welterweight champion, had all the
Right,
eyeballs on him when he fought Jake Paul. And
right.
the manner in which he lost has now made him a social outcast in
Well,
both
see,
MMA and
but
boxing.
see, it all comes down to Sultan. People don't understand the power. People don't understand the power of
Arre,
Salman Khan. So when he
it-
lost in Sultan, his career changed after that.
everybody who loses, basically, भाई के साथ पंगा नहीं लेने का,
Correct.
off
Correct.
screen or on screen.
There are a lot of names out there, but if you see anyone who's run into Salman Khan has never come back. I feel Salman is more dangerous than John Jones.
I think Salman is the beyond the goat, dude. There
Yeah,
is nobody more dangerous than Salman. I
correct.
mean,
He's
if you
the
see,
sheep.
if yeah, if you see somebody like Conor McGregor who's doing a movie now, the first thing I
Yeah.
wanted to tweet and ask him is that, is Salman involved? भाई के साथ फिल्म कर रहा है कि नहीं, फिर मैं
Absolutely, yes. In fact, it was quite
देखेगा.
interesting to see John Jones just last week. He tweeted saying, the only man who has survived and excelled after fighting me is Glover Teixeira, and I think he deserves another shot at the light heavyweight belt. Such an
I
interesting
think,
term for someone who's not in very good terms with most of his opponents. Is kind of
yeah.
encouraging the Brazilian.
Yeah, it is. I mean, John Jones, if you see, when someone talks about fighting John Jones, I mean, look at
Yeah,
him as a specimen. This man is not your regular fit athlete. This man is, if you look
correct,
at his body, he's been created in a lab to fight. That's how he's been
correct,
created. Strong
correct.
upper
And
body, strong
that's
arms, strong
and that's
shoulders,
us.
great core.
You know,
And then there's
that's
us,
us behind on the like on the bottom right. You see that fat guy over there. That's his wrestling
on the
coach.
left hand side, yeah, correct.
Yeah, yeah, that's us.
At least we're standing next to the girls, so I'm a little happy.
Yeah,
John can scream as much as he wants, but I'm next to the girls. It's cool.
yeah,
No, it's. I think John is going through a 2.0 phase in his life after his
yeah,
arrest in
yeah,
Vegas 2 years ago,
yeah,
or 1.5
yeah,
years ago. I think something is, you always see great athletes reach greatness and then suddenly slip and slide for a long
yeah.
time. And we saw
Right,
that with Jones, where for the longest time, Jones's biggest enemy was John Jones. And
correct.
now he's suddenly adopting a different approach. He's getting back to. Did you see that video of him sparring bare
Oh
knuckle?
yes,
And
oh
I'm like,
yes. He was hitting the bags.
no. He was doing some hand to hand sparring with his coach.
Oh,
And
okay. No, I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
man,
I saw some
he's
bare knuckle shots that he was taking, on the bag, on the boxing bag, and as in
but
he
dude,
looked
he's looking
beautiful. He
good.
looked beautiful.
He's
He
looking
looks
so.
beautiful. You know.
How lean? I mean, he's dropped. He remember in the middle we saw him balloon up to 260
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah. when he
I
was
think he
doing like
must
his
be
heavy
down to.
deadlifts and squats, you know.
Correct. He was setting some world records of some 600 pounds and stuff he was
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, right.
I think he's made that, he's translated that entire strength now and cut down back into weight.
You know what most people I feel they do not appreciate is the fact that professional athletes need a break. Now, someone like John Jones,
Yeah.
who became the champion at 21, uh,
Hmm.
he had so many ups and downs,
Just
and
21, man.
before he was even 30, he was superstardom, super rich, super everything. So he's not really
Oof.
taken a break. So when you're moving weight classes, if you see how Israel Adesanya did it, he didn't do it the right way. He just didn't cut weight. So
He did it the
uh, you know
Anderson way.
absolutely. So normally at 185, when you're weighing in at 185 on a Friday, on the Saturday you're probably 202, 203, and Israel Adesanya just played that same mechanism, and he went ahead,
Exactly.
and we saw how that fight went down, and Jan Blachowicz dominated him totally and handed him the first loss in MMA.
Yeah.
John
Yeah.
Jones, on the other hand, has gone the traditional strength training routine where when you're weighing in at 205, he's probably at 220, 225 on fight day.
Easy,
But
easy.
but he ballooned up to 260 to build up strength, and now he's cutting
Yeah.
down on his fat. So when he'll finally come back, he'll be about 235, 240 of
Yeah.
absolute raging power, muscle, speed, and agility.
Oh,
And
he,
you know how scary that's going to be. I
ex-
actually, now when I saw John Jones, I don't want that fight with Stipe Miocic, because I think after that Stipe will not come back.
no. It's firstly, no, after seeing Jones, it's, we've seen a lot of fighters in the last few years take a break. And when
Right?
they've taken a break, they've looked very, very good. And I'm not talking about GSP coming back to face Bisping, because
Yeah.
as good as that was, he's still taking on somebody from the yesteryear. He didn't take
And
on
he
a
retired
young
after that.
phenom.
It was just one fight.
Yeah, and he got pieced up in that fight. Like Bisping was
Yeah.
touching him a lot. He was busted up
Yeah.
everywhere. And
Yeah.
just because of the fact that he's GSP and he's great, that's why he won. But my
Correct.
point is that I would have loved to see him against a younger contender. But coming back to Jones, is that the fact that he's taken that little break, he's done the hard work and put on that mass, is
Yeah.
what I'm liking about. I'm liking about his potential return.
Absolutely. I think he's taken the perfect scientific approach. It's been absolutely fantastic. So, in fact, John Jones was one of the superstars that we mentioned who really changed the face of the
Oh, are we
UFC.
starting with
And
Jones?
well, I'm such a huge fan of Jones. I would love to start with him.
Yeah, okay. Let's start with yeah. So, guys, if you didn't remember, we were talking about the popularity aspect of fighting.
Right.
We're not talking about skill. We're not talking about this thing. We're talking about how popular a fighter gets, and
Right.
from that point on, we see his career trajectory and how much he's affected the sport.
Right.
So, Somesh, when we look at John Jones, like you said, 21 years of age, thrust into superstardom. I mean, that clinic of a performance on Shogun Hua, when he beat him down, destroyed him,
Right.
and to be pushed into stardom at that age suddenly, it's, it's the entire, the entire universe changes,
Correct.
with a little
Absolutely.
bit of stardom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, see, the thing is that it's not just about the fact that you're a star inside the octagon. That's what I'm saying. That MMA, first of all, is such a new sport that people are still carving their way through it. Now,
Right, right,
apart from all of that, it is so important to actually be a role model to the younger generation. You need to have maybe a charity angle to it. You need to be flamboyant, you need to be flashy, you need to be nice even outside your playing field. Now, especially in the in the world of MMA, I would call that an octagon. So there are so many fighters. In fact, just the UFC has about 650 or 700 contracted fighters. How many
right.
stars can we remember? How many stars can we remember?
That's a good
You know?
question. When you okay, I'm talking about when I started watching, and
Yeah,
also, can we call them stars, like in that sense, not just in the sense of the sport.
yeah,
I'm talking about, if you look at a contractor side, if you go anywhere in the world, and if somebody sees that mohawk of Chuck Liddell, even if you're not a full fight fan, you still know Chuck Liddell. You're
oh
like,
my
yeah,
god,
that's the Iceman.
absolutely
Like,
yes.
I
Chuck
know Chuck
Liddell.
Liddell. I've seen
Chuck
him in
Liddell was
movies, TV.
Chuck Liddell was such a huge star. Chuck Liddell was such
I
an
mean, look at
iconic
that, man.
figure.
Look at the fuck. Iceman, dude. There was, I think, in that when I started watching, like when I got really into it, I think
Yeah,
the Iceman was a great hook to bring in fans because he was the
absolutely,
first
yes.
guy who hammered guys on their feet, could stop the takedowns, and a lot of the guys back then didn't like the wrestling angle. A lot of
Yes,
guys didn't like the
yes,
ground game, and
right.
Chuck was one of those guys that I think he was iconic. He may not have done like in terms of like titles and belts, but that's what I like. I didn't back then. It didn't matter. I think the popularity aspect has evolved and changed to a certain degree now. Nobody gave
Well,
a shit about what Chuck did in public. Nobody
well,
did.
absolutely, yes, because there was not so much of social media and emphasis on those angles were not.
कुछ था ही नहीं.
Yeah, कुछ ज़्यादा था ही नहीं, to be really honest. So, in fact, Chuck Liddell was
Yeah.
such a big star because he crossovered from those Pride FC days and those wars with Wanderlei Silva, came into
Oh,
the UFC, is a kickboxer who was not taken down for a very long time in his career because people were actually scared of his knee coming up or his uppercuts or
yeah,
or the way he used to maintain range. He was that good, and these
yeah.
aspects made a huge difference because he never really aimed at going at the title. Someone like a Nate Diaz, they never really aimed at going towards the title. They were outright themselves,
No, never.
and as they say, they were outright gangsters. They loved this life. They loved fighting. They didn't fight for the sporty aspect for it. They didn't fight for the name. They didn't fight for money. They didn't fight for belts. They just
Right.
fought because they loved it. Someone like Chito Vera just said it. Chito Vera said that this world is so unnatural. The fact that I love fighting for a living itself is so scary, but I enjoy it. It's what
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
made of.
yeah,
That is me.
it's Chito Vera is also one of those, those popular
Those
guys who are,
badass guys.
yeah, they're just, who don't give a who don't give a crap about what they say on social media,
Yeah.
and they don't give a crap about how what people think about them leading their lives. It's no, but I'm saying when we talk about the, that entire path of guys coming after Liddell, we
Yeah.
saw
Rampage Jackson and
we saw, yeah, correct, we saw Rampage Jack, but again, in terms of popularity, I'm talking about, like, it's, the UFC got lucky when they got their poster boy George St. Pierre.
yeah.
GSP was a very, squeaky clean image. I mean, I'm not trying to be racist here, but it doesn't get squeaky cleaner than that. You're white, you're good looking, you can fight, you speak Canadian French, and you're a badass, and it's,
and, and
all
you're a
these things
clean
come,
athlete. You're a clean
and you're a
athlete.
clean athlete.
You're someone that has never got drug
No
busted.
controversy.
No, absolutely no controversy, and he has such a good story. Like somebody from,
Yeah.
like a newspaper thrower from a, and
He was
then
a
he
garbage man,
became
no?
a garbage man, and then he became, he
Correct.
used to go and drop newspapers at people's houses to learning karate, to becoming a world champ, and finally retiring as a world champ.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, if you look at GSP's popularity, it was
Yeah,
firstly demographically, it lit Canada on fire. Like, I mean,
absolutely, yes.
when do you remember the days when we would not? I couldn't even remember the cards, but if I knew GSP was fighting as the main
Yeah,
event versus Koscheck or whoever or BJ Penn,
yeah,
and it's, and that card would, I mean, I remember the Quebec Center would
yeah.
fill up with 60,000 people coming to watch GSP, paying, I don't know how much money.
Right.
But those live gates, GSP was one of the guys with his popularity that moved that live gate up,
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. And in fact, he was a good-looking guy. He was a, he was a clean
perfect
athlete,
model. He
and he's
looked
to
like a
win.
bloody model.
And he's to win. So it's such a good trajectory that you took us through from Liddell to John Jones to GSP. But there's also one person that I would definitely like to mention, and that's Ronda Rousey. Not
Oh yes,
only,
how could I forget?
not only was she the first female athlete uh, to actually hold the belt, but at the same time, she did so many great things outside the octagon. She was a two-time Olympian. Her
Yeah,
mom was a judoka. Her dad sadly, ended his life in a very tragic manner.
yeah,
She
he
she
suicide. I
overcame
remember.
all of that, and then she really became this champion, this dominant champion who was finishing the fighters, like her opponents, in less than a minute and a half. So
Yeah,
in fact, it's so good because everybody's life has some stories, and the UFC picks these guys who they feel are champions. So the matchmakers are absolutely through the roof. Sean Shelby, Mick Maynard are
yeah.
absolutely geniuses. But I love the way how UFC spins stories around their champs.
Do you remember the time when I remember when Ronda Rousey was in Strike Force and she submitted
Yeah,
Misha Tate? She was
yeah,
iconically known for her ability to pull off that armbar from nowhere, no matter where.
you- right.
And it was that era of, it's that era of that got her popularity in the MMA world. But then suddenly, then her persona changed. She became she took the nickname of Rowdy Roddy Piper from the WWE, a legend from the
Yes,
WWE, and she used that Rowdy name, which is stuck with her now.
right.
And she became this rowdy Ronda Rousey, where she had that expression and that scowl. And there are millions of girls that she inspired to do that. And I ran into an Indian fighter. Her name is
Right.
Rekha Chaudhary, and
Okay.
I swear to God, Somesh, her expression is Ronda Rousey. It's she's a carbon copy. She's emulated her entire game plan based on her, except for the armbar. She is she's literally a marauder. Like, I thought Asha Roka was running through people. This girl is 15 and 0 in the amateurs,
Oh,
and she's
really?
8 and 0 in pros.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay.
And
Okay.
I when I had a chance to speak to her, she's like, Ronda Rousey, Ronda Rousey, Ronda Rousey. That's all she said. She's like, I grew up with
That's
Ronda Rousey. I watched Ronda Rousey. She's 19 years old, dude. 19 years old. And she embodies, like, even the way she looks when she's on camera, she's
uh-huh.
copying Ronda Rousey
Oh,
completely.
wow. So
That's
I
the
have to
level
see
of
that.
popular. People talk about Gina Carano, who is
Right.
a global movie star, and she's popular, but
Right.
nobody beats the popularity of Ronda Rousey in the women's division. Nobody, not even
Absolutely.
today.
No chance. No chance. In fact, that kind of popularity, because also, again, she looked fabulous. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about that.
yeah,
You
which was
know,
cute.
you know, and everything apart from, see, there are many winners. There's so many winners in the UFC. Like Tyron Woodley was winning
Yeah,
for a very long time, but who was never a popular, loved champion.
that's a great example. In fact, Tyron was hated.
Yes, he
Honestly,
was.
he was
He
hated for
was.
the longest time.
And I have no idea why. In fact, for a very long time, even
Maybe
DC
after
was
Wonderboy
hated.
Thompson. Dude, Daniel Cormier is I cannot forget the amount of times he's been booed in front of Jones, who
Yeah,
is, if you look at popularity wise, like common sense wise, like, this guy's
yeah.
been arrested, he's been this, he's that. It's, I think people relate to
The bad
characters,
boy angle?
not just the bad boy angle, but it's, the more, I think, वो जमाने में ना earlier एक time था जहाँ the GSP squeaky image was what people wanted.
Correct.
Now people want it's like, even in video games back then, you were Rambo and you
Yeah.
could beat everybody. Now
Then you became
it's
Bruce Lee.
correct, it became Bruce Lee, but now it's the regular guy. They want to see the regular guy survive and make it big. And
Interesting.
Jones was this, black kid from a talent pool of a family who had athlete brothers and had a lot to live up to. At 21 years of age, becomes the world champion and screws up throughout his life with
Yeah.
multiple DUIs, arrests, drug problems. He's been busted so many times. And I think the American public related to that more than the squeaky clean image of an Olympic athlete. Now, I don't
Right.
know
So
whether
basically,
that's
what
right or wrong, but
well, so you're actually trying to say that in the 60s and 70s, how we used to have the bell bottom pants.
huh,
And then in the 80s, 90s, 2000s came the tight jeans, and now the bell bottoms are coming back.
correct. So you
So,
never
so
know.
so maybe what's happening is that the trend of fighter attraction is going back to the bad boys. So if you look at John Jones, if you look at Nate Diaz, if you look at Khamzat,
Yeah,
in his interviews, he clearly says, just put anybody, I'm gonna kill them. Just put
correct.
anybody.
Except
It's
Gilbert
not
Burns.
so it's not that, oh, shake hand, bow down, hug the opponent. That thing is
Huh.
phasing away. The
Hey,
stars,
hello. I
you
know who
know.
you're looking at when you talk about that. The shake hand bow down is Anderson Silva.
Oh, no, no. So I'm see Anderson Silva is still the greatest of all time. There's no doubt about that. I
Huh.
don't want to, I mean, he was not as popular as I would like him to be, but
No, he wasn't.
when it
He
comes to his
wasn't.
fighting career, undoubtedly the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I
Out
mean,
here,
no,
when we
no.
talk about,
But
someone even
sorry.
sorry,
No, no, I'm
we are
talking
so,
about, I wanted to
we
add
are so
one
charged
point.
up. We are so charged up.
I want to add one point. I think there were two levels of popularity with Silva. He was never popular with, because of his ability to, he didn't speak English, he didn't connect with the masses
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
sense. And a lot of people thought, like, his silence and his respect was actually his arrogance. Silva
Right,
was an arrogant champion, and he bloody deserved it, because he was the
right,
greatest of all time. And you
right.
deserve to be arrogant, and because you're the greatest. And his bowing down, a lot of people deciphered it later as, that's him mocking you. When he put the belt in front of his opponent, it was his way of saying, "F you, this is
Come
mine.
get it.
You can't touch it." He used to use a Portuguese word, a phrase called "nunca será" or "jamais será." There will never be another me. Basically, it means that I will always be the one that will be.
That is insane. That is
That is
insane.
creepy.
I absolutely love that. But when it comes down to popularity, what I like and what I dislike about popularity is that it's a double-edged sword.
Fully.
There are so many fighters, and I'm very sad to say, I mean, because we're in India and we interact with the guys here more often, they
Right.
have started focusing more on being a trash talker and dressing in a certain way, and not as much on their game. So now let me put a fighter
Mm.
out there for everybody. Platinum Mike Perry.
Oh,
Platinum
yes.
Platinum Mike Perry was not, you know, the I mean, he was not the most skilled guy. He didn't have the best technique out there. He didn't win always, but
No.
so popular because he came and he brought on the fight. He brought on
Yeah.
the fight. And
You'd
that is
compare him to like a Diaz, right? I mean, like, if you had to say that
oh,
Diaz
but
had this. No, actually, Diaz was
but
also
Diaz
very
was very
technical.
skilled.
Yes,
Diaz
he
was
actually
very skilled.
he is still very skilled. Yes.
He's got his hands which are absolutely through the roof. His jiu-jitsu is through the roof.
Oh
Platinum Mike Perry
man.
is still a very, very liked fighter, but he was just not winning. I think the UFC cut him after a 5 or a 6 losing streak when he started getting his girlfriend in his corner, and he really
Yeah.
had no camp. It was just going down the drain, but he was still popular.
You know,
And that was because
he's facing Michael Venom Page in BKFC as a crossover fight between Bellator and
yes, yes, he
BKFC.
is. Yes, he is. You know what?
It's
Now that fight is gonna get insane pay-per-views because Michael Venom Page, again, is a champion, but not as loved as what a UFC champion would technically be. I think it was Diego Lima that knocked him out in
uh, it,
uh,
it
in
was
in Bellator.
Douglas Lima.
Oh, Douglas Lima. Douglas
Yeah,
Lima. You're right. Douglas Lima knocked him out and just shot to fame post that. But again,
he
like
did.
coming back to Mike Perry, not the
Sorry,
most
yeah.
skilled,
Uh-huh.
not a guy with excellent technique, but still people loved him. So it's just
People
about being
do.
real and true to yourself, and that is so important. Speaking about being real and true to yourself, there's one man that we cannot forget in this list of popularity
Tell me.
is Brock Lesnar.
Oh, flip, man.
You know,
Oh, shit. When you talk about
Brock
popularity,
Lesnar.
you're not going to get bigger than Brock Lesnar.
This man of course, was a professional wrestler, crossed over from WWE, went into the UFC, fought
Yeah.
at UFC 100.
Yes,
Then, of course,
iconic card.
iconic card with a yellow mat or something of a sort. Retire, whatever, retired, took a break, came back for UFC 200.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, and he was a legit fighter. In fact, people thought a lot of people, a lot of fighters or performers from WWE can come. But man, look at CM Punk. What happened to him?
Look at Batista. Batista
Look at
tried his hand.
Batista.
Yeah,
Batista won his
Bobby
fight.
Lashley. Bobby
Bobby
Lashley.
Lashley. So true. Bobby Lashley. But I mean, nowhere close to Brock Lesnar because Brock Lesnar had his mouth running. He had his
Yeah.
hands flowing. He was a huge, monstrous, I don't know,
He was the
mountain of
biggest
muscle.
heavyweight. Yeah, he was this imposing beast. No, and I think, Somesh, it was the first time that we ever saw crossover fans come in. I mean,
Yes.
Brock Lesnar brought with him his legion of WWE supporters.
Yes,
Legion.
absolutely. Yes,
And if you talk
absolutely. In
about
fact,
numbers of fans in WWE versus fans in MMA, WWE fans will outnumber
is way
MMA
more, way
fans
more.
way more.
So I just love the fact that, you know, the UFC picked Brock Lesnar. and they must have had some talk with Dana White and Sean Shelby and this and that. They must have groomed him to a certain level, but still,
Yeah,
WWE, which is not real, moving into a real sport where you will get punched, you will get hit, is a totally different ball game.
exactly.
The most iconic, you know, face off that I've seen was Randy Couture versus Brock Lesnar. And Randy Couture is a
Jesus.
legit heavyweight. Brock Lesnar was two weight classes above him.
Easily.
He was huge
Easily.
and it was that big, and you know, and he performed well. And man, so popular, so
Dude,
popular.
Brock was the kind of athlete that redefined the heavyweight division. The guys who
Absolutely.
saw after they saw Brock Lesnar, the guys knew they had to pack on mass. They
Yeah,
just couldn't survive in that kind of world
dude,
where Brock
Frank
was
Mir,
king. Frank Mir, I mean,
Shane Carwin.
Yeah, correct. The kind of behemoths these guys, Gabriel Gonzaga, all these
Yeah,
guys started coming in, were heavy and big, and Czech Congo and Pat Barry, and all these guys were
right.
big guys, but nobody was as big as Brock. Nobody. I mean,
Nobody,
Brock was.
nobody.
I was watching a video today. On this day today was Brock's fight against Heath Herring, and that was his first
Oh,
win in the UFC. And I remember seeing, Heath Herring is by no means a small guy. He's a
dude,
proper pride fighter.
Heath Herring was used to look bigger than Krokop when they fought.
Correct, exactly. Heath Herring was huge and he looked small compared to Brock Lesnar. And I'm
Right.
like, somebody I met told me like, they'd gone for a fan expo or something, and they got to see Brock Lesnar like about 4 feet away, and
Yeah.
they were telling me that, I'm Somesh, I'm 6'2" and I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
He's like, that man is 6'6", and he's can rip you apart by not even, he has to just use his finger and do this. He is
Or he
that
just has to see
imposing.
you basically.
He basically it's like Mike Tyson. When he looks at you, you're knocked out.
Yeah.
You consider that you're knocked out. No, but Brock's popularity was so polarizing because it created a lot of backlash also.
Yeah.
A lot of fighters were like, oh, what the F, and oh, you have to do this and do that and run your mouth. But it's Brock paved the way towards popularity because guys realized that shit, we got to start marketing ourselves now.
Absolutely. And this was a time where Connor was not Connor. He was just, he
Conor
was just warming up.
McGregor.
He was just warming up into being himself and winning some fights, and then, wearing better suits and better
Conor
watches and
McGregor was visualizing his future at this point. He was just
right, right.
visualizing, and that's a perfect segue because you can't get better in terms of popularity in this sport than Conor McGregor.
Absolutely, yes.
You
Number
just
one
cannot.
on the list is none other than Conor McGregor. See, apart from having a good career, apart from being the first double champ, let me tell you,
Yeah,
if you see the five top pay-per-views, they all have Conor in it.
I believe it. I think he outsold Brock, right?
Yes, easily. I,
Really?
I, I don't even think that the Brock fight was in the first five. They all are Conor. So there's Conor Khabib and all of that. If you want me to pull it up, I can just pull it up. So yeah, so
No,
there was Khabib
it's
and Conor,
huh,
which
huh.
was at number one, and then there is Conor and Nate Diaz two, which is at number two.
Wow.
Then I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was Conor Nate Diaz one at number three. There was Eddie
That was a
Alvarez and
co-main
Conor.
event, though. That was a co-main
Yeah,
event, though. Yeah, I remember that.
Eddie Alvarez, Conor McGregor.
Then he became
Uh,
champ.
yeah, number four. So these are all like massive, massive fights. It just cannot be bigger than Conor. There's a huge
And
speculation because most people see Conor either on TV or on social media, and he has a certain persona.
yeah,
But
he
most
does.
fighters who actually meet him backstage say, no, he's very quiet. He doesn't
I
talk.
believe that. I believe that. I really believe that. Because I think that Conor McGregor. It's also a lot of people used to compare him to Chael Sonnen because Chael Sonnen was the greatest shit talker in the business. Nobody's better than him, and
Right,
he. The only difference is Connor for the longest time. I'm not disparaging Chael Sonnen. I love him. He's such an amazing, amazing athlete and fighter.
right.
But he, to a large extent, of course, made a lot of fun of people. Like any nonsensical things, like the Nogueras feeding the carrot to the bus and trying to take it home was complete crap. It's comedy. It's complete hilarity. But Conor McGregor, in terms of his, if you realize that switch, it started when he faced Dennis Seaver. Then it became better when he beat Chad Mendes.
Yeah.
And it became even better after that, because after beating Chad Mendes on a short notice, he calls
Yeah.
out Aldo. And then
Yeah.
they had a 1 year long marketing build up for the
Yeah.
Aldo fight, which
Yeah.
didn't happen. And I
Yeah.
think they spent, I think, Somesh, correct me if I'm wrong, they must have spent millions and millions of dollars. It was across 4 countries that they did the promotions, right? They
I
did
think
Ireland, they did Brazil, they did America,
London.
I London, correct. They just flew everywhere. There was a time where, Aldo used to complain saying that I'm just tired of the build up. Let's fight now.
I think it was $8 or $9 million just on the
Oh
promotions.
man, you saw those videos that they were cutting with Conor
Oh
McGregor and
man.
Vegas Sunset Strip walking down, throwing money in the air, and I mean the popularity that sparked off a channel called the Mac Life, which
Yeah.
follows him around, showing the life of Conor McGregor, has has made it. A lot of fighters are now also sadly not looking at the work that Conor put in. Conor
Correct.
was a poor plumber and he busted his freaking ass
Yeah.
to get to where he is. People forget that part. People are looking at the parties where he's getting fat and he's smoking and drinking and he's got $1 billion and he's got a whiskey label. But his popularity came because of the work he put in.
See, come what may, like no matter what people say around the world, when Connor and Floyd fought, let me tell you, they still went towards the end of the fight. It's not like he finished him off in
They
round three,
fought
or
10 rounds.
you know,
10
it
rounds Conor
it didn't
McGregor
get
hung in
over.
there.
It didn't get over, and Connor really struck him a couple of times. Yeah, it was not, it was not. Of course, yeah, it was like a 80-20, but being a
More like
20,
90-10, dude.
yeah,
90-10.
but okay, even if it's 90-10, it's my debut and you're 49-0 or 46-0 or like whatever he
Yeah.
was at that point of
Yeah.
time.
49
It's
and 0.
it's crazy to even make that fight. And this guy, Conor McGregor, hung till the 10th round.
He
It
did.
just shows what kind of a fighter he is. He stands up, he does stuff, he promotes the company, and the good part is he openly says it. The UFC make this much money from me. I deserve this much money. It's as simple.
Exactly.
And what I really want to tell all the young fighters coming up is, yeah, you may be flashy, you may be throwing off these Instagram reels and all that. Is your company making money off you? Are you really performing that well? Are you that
Right.
killer inside the octagon that your organization would want to pay for? And if
Right.
these check boxes are done, then yes, you will be a star. But if not, please don't focus on the flamboyance. First, focus on the sport and then go on to the flamboyance because you cannot go the other way.
It's there's a famous quote by one of the I think it was LeBron or Steph or someone, I can't pinpoint who exactly. He's always said, they said, if you want to be a star, you got to show me a star effort, and that sums it
Absolutely,
up
yes.
perfectly. You want to be a star, you got to put in a star effort.
Absolutely, yes.
And
Sorry,
and guys like Conor McGregor and Brock Lesnar, say what you want, their popularity, it all stems from ridiculous star efforts. I mean,
absolutely, yes.
NCAA champion, this, that, whatnot. I mean, look at the list of accolades that Brock had. Look at the list of this thing that Conor had. He was a cage rage champion, left his belt, got his chance in the UFC.
Two division
It's
champion at Cage Rage.
two division champion KJ, two division champion in the UFC. It's the star effort that makes these guys popular, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yes. And speaking of star efforts, we're going to take a short commercial break here. We'll be right back and talking about the Indian contingent at the Commonwealth. A lot more only after the short commercial break on Fight Mania. Stay tuned.
Hello, everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. Storytellers and Storytellers is back. Storytelling veterans Puneet and Vikena talk how they're developing and producing content for top OTT platforms. On the Wire Talks, Siddharth Bhatia talks to Kira Huju. She's a lecturer at Oxford University and she talks to Siddharth about her paper on the saffronization of the Indian Foreign Services. On A Sip of Finance, Priyanka lists out 5 things that are a must before finalizing a mutual fund investment. On Think Fast, Varun and Sucheta talk about industry layoffs, Zomato stocks, and the user feedback on Instagram's new look. And on Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav gives us a glimpse of the Titanic Museum in Northern Ireland and uncovers the problems with museums across the world. I'd like to remind you all about our merchandise once again. We got some amazing stuff out there with more coming soon. But go to the IVM Podcast website and check out our collection of t-shirts. You have to click on the shop tab and we'll take you to our partner Grow 91's website. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Hey, you want somebody to talk to your shows about, right? So talk to them about them. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platforms you're listening to us on. And remember, you can check us out on YouTube. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week, Bode Lifestyle, Small Case, Capgemini, and Intel vPro. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Thank you to
Whoa.
all our sponsors from Boat to Cap Gemini to all of them.
Yes.
But there's a very
Thank you.
important show that's called A Sip of Finance. Chips, and I think you were talking about some mutual funds. Maybe we can consult the host of that show and get a mutual fund investment sorted. Yeah.
Absolutely, but you know what the only problem is that मेरा इज्जत का फलूदा नहीं होना चाहिए online, because I have somebody managing this for me. I am hopeless when it comes to doing this. I'm hopeless when it comes to doing this. So I think listening to that show might give me some tips. But I
Absolutely,
certainly don't want to
yes.
be a part of it.
But who was not hopeless are the Indian contingent in Birmingham this Commonwealth Games. Dude, 61 medals, and amongst all the countries that participate, I think maybe 40, 50 of them,
Yeah.
we stood ranked number 4.
Fantastic, man. That's
We
just,
were 4th.
it's just it
61 medals.
this is honestly what makes me feel amazing, because India is so much more than cricket in terms of sport.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
I'm loving the fact that athletes who are shedding their skin, shedding
Yeah.
that title, saying India can only succeed at cricket. No, they're succeeding at wrestling, boxing, and these were dominated by the US at one point, and South
Right.
America. And
Right.
I'm seeing such amazing athletes coming out, and it's just
Right.
becoming an exciting time. I do a lot of work in boxing, and I'm just seeing that crop of fighters, who are focused. Yes, we want to fight. We want to represent India in the Olympics once, and after that, I'm going pro. And
Right.
I'm
Right.
I'm liking that attitude. I'm really
Well,
liking
in
that
fact,
attitude.
it's so beautiful because a lot of people, a lot of organizations, a lot of sponsors are in fact looking at other sports other than cricket, because cricket has its set sponsors, it has its set system, it's
Yeah,
got all of that. How
yeah,
many more superstars can we make in the Lisa? I mean, there's a show on Sony. I think it is Coco.
yeah.
It's some Coco
Ultimate
League.
Coco, yeah. Ultimate Coco
Ultimate
League is
Coco.
coming. Yeah,
So it's got, it's going the IPL way, the same, that six cities, six franchises, each owner. Badshah, I
correct.
think, is involved, and our very own Puneet
Wow,
Balan is involved in the Mumbai franchise. But
wow.
it's kind of pooling in the resources to make champions other than cricket. Look at IVM itself. We have this beautiful show called Fight Mania, and they're giving us this platform,
Exactly.
and we can voice our opinion. We can talk to everybody. We can tell them as to what is happening in the sport, what
Exactly.
to do, what not to do. Because here there are two experienced guys with
Yep.
10+ years of experience each to actually
Exactly.
speak with you guys and talk to you. So I think
The
it's so
only
good.
show to listen to about combat sports in India and out of India is Fight Mania. That's it.
But
I'm not going to say
but
this.
aren't we the best?
We are the best.
Yeah.
We are the best.
But yeah, so Team India again, Commonwealth, superb,
Amazing.
61
Incredible.
medals,
Incredible.
and that
Incredible.
really gets my chest proud like that. And
It is. It is a proud moment for India, because every year we are doing better and better. And I'm just hoping that eventually, that in the next few years, I'm not hoping anymore. I just see it happening.
yeah.
I know somewhere in the next 5 years the private sector is going to step in, and we're going to see these sports get a much bigger spotlight. We're going to see
Oh,
the much bigger limelight.
I mean, absolutely, because I think this year's contingent for Team India was completely sponsored by JSW Sports and Adani Sports, completely top to
Fantastic.
bottom. From
Exactly.
nutrition
That's
to clothes to training to everything. And look at the result. 61 medals, 22
same
gold,
thing.
17 silver, 23 bronze, if I'm not mistaken. And couldn't be
It's
better than that.
it's amazing. You're seeing, we're seeing. Remember I was telling you I was doing a venture which is yet to come out, and it's being backed by Sunil Shetty, and
Yeah.
this, and we're seeing.
Hey.
He was telling me. we, now I can't focus. We've been seeing. He's been helping out all the athletes for free with his
Yeah.
nutrition brand, and I'm liking the fact that these guys
Oh,
are
wow.
now realizing. Yes, it's becoming. It's becoming a point where I think they're getting backed up by private sectors, so
Right.
that they can do this for the athletes.
Absolutely. And why not? Because instead of focusing on the big fish, why don't we look at the small fish and try and make them big fish? Because there are so many
Exactly.
out there. So many
Exactly.
out there, and so
It's crazy how how good the how well the market is getting better and better.
right.
And speaking of which, we've had a great show so far, Somesh Kamra. It's almost been, I think, 50 minutes now that we've been on the air. we need to,
45.
we need to wrap this up by talking about the upcoming fight between a veteran in Dominic Cruz taking on a young blood named Chito Marlon Vera.
Oh my God. In fact, I think uh, in the last 7 or 8 weeks, we've been having fights every single weekend. And it's going to go on for another 3 weeks, which means 10 consecutive weekends we're going to be having fights. And I can't remember one card which was not good because they were all banging
No,
fights. They were all
I really
banging
can't.
fights. In fact, Dominic Cruz is such a superior athlete. He came back from a 4-year layoff, and I think he beat, if I'm not mistaken, was it Cody Garbrandt or TJ Dillashaw? It
No, he beat. He lost to Cody Garbrandt. He lost to Cody
oh
Garbrandt.
oh then he beat TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah,
He
he
beat
beat
TJ
TJ.
Dillashaw on his comeback, and man, such a motivated fellow who's a commentator with the UFC takes some time
Yes.
off. Takes about 12 weeks, 16 weeks, come back and says, "I want to compete. I want to feel that leather on my hands. I want to get into that competition again." And he's facing an absolute killer in Chito Vera. But let me tell you
Yeah.
what Chito Vera tweeted yesterday. He said
What do you say?
this fight was originally offered to Peter Yan, and Peter Yan turned it down.
Why?
I have no idea. And that was
I
so
mean,
interesting because, I mean, we don't know. I mean, we don't know,
actually,
maybe
I know
people.
why. I know why. It's for somebody like Peter Yan, who has now lost, a slim decision loss to the champion Aljamain Sterling. He is
Oh!
still. I know. Your love is there only, no. But he don't worry. He's facing your best fighter coming soon.
Yes!
Sugar
Sean
Sean
O'Malley,
O'Malley.
Sugar Show.
So no, I understand why he would say no to it, because see, if he wins, people will say, "Oh, he's beaten, a former yesteryear fighter in Dominic Cruz." If he
Oh,
loses,
no. Oh, no. So
this
I think it was Chito Vera versus Peter Yan, and Peter Yan turned it down, and hence it was Dominic Cruz.
oh shit, okay, I got confused completely.
Yeah,
Um, no, man, Chito Vera is a handful for anybody,
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. In fact,
and he's on the rise,
you know,
and he's
it
huge for that division.
it's a great fight. It's a great fight. Um, if you ask me for predictions, I will straight go down and say Chito Vera. He's he's too much of pressure for
Yeah,
somebody like Dominic Cruz, who's just
yeah.
coming back. Yes, Dominic Cruz movement is absolutely A class. We cannot doubt that. But when it comes to pressure, you can move as much as you want in front of me. But if I just start backing you up, there's going to be
Yeah.
that much that you can do.
I mean, see, if somebody who can start cutting the ring off or the cage off for Frankie Edgar, you can't hide from him. Frankie
Right.
is one of the best footwork. Frankie had some of the best footwork in the UFC for the longest time.
Oh,
And
yes.
if you can cut off Frankie Edgar, it's not going to be an easy night for you. And the
Right.
thing with Chito Vera is he doesn't fight on points. It doesn't exist in his head. He's out
Correct.
there to take your head off. He's going to
He,
rip
ju-
you apart.
he just wants to knock you out.
He wants to destroy you. He's like a heat-seeking missile. He's after you. He's not going to quit. And till he gets his target, he doesn't stop. And we've never seen
Very
Chito
true.
Vera, quit. So I think it might be a little too much for Dominic Cruz at this point in his life. He's been a great champion. He's been a great fighter. He's been one of the best, in that division for the longest time. But I think Chito Vera, he might be he might realize it after he faces Chito Vera.
Absolutely, yes. So, I mean, I believe even you are going to go for Chito Vera. We both
Yes,
are, in
sir.
fact, lining towards Chito Vera. Please make your picks, tag us, hashtag us on all social
Yes.
media platforms. I'm on Instagram, somesh.kamra, and on Twitter, somesh_kamra.
Thank you so much, Somesh. I'm at Arjun at the Mystic Chip on Twitter, and I'm at Arjun Chips on Instagram. So, guys, don't forget to tune in to our podcast every second Thursday or every Thursday. Actually, it depends. We'll let you know when it's happening. It might have even be twice in the coming week. But always tune in to Fight Mania podcast on ibmpodcast.com and check out our whole library of old episodes, which was now labeled under the Fighting Goat, to just get an idea of what we are and who we are. Follow us for lots of cool merchandise and stuff. And we will catch you on the other side in the coming week. You've been listening to the voices of the Mystic Chip, Arjun Chipalkatti, and my main man, Sumesh, the superhuman Kamra. We'll see you next week. Sayonara and stay safe.